Good?
Oh, buddy.
Buddy, you look great, dude.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Michael.
You look great, yeah.
Hey, dude.
Glenn, what's
Thank
up,
you very
man?
much. Dude.
Bro, thank you for having me.
Dude, thank you for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. I'm like super stoked.
Man, when you told me, I was like, how can I pass this opportunity? I wanted to be here.
Dude, I'm grateful you made it up safe. I'm really happy you are able to be on the show, whether it be the amount of... I'm really, honestly, just really excited to hear your story, and I think everybody else will be really stoked that I brought you on today. The main thing was I heard, and we'll get to 5 Cent City eventually, but I heard that's where I was first kind of introduced to you, and I was able to understand, hear your story a bit, and then there was many things. I think I have somewhere in my note thread where I'm like, I want to ask this guy this and this and this, and there's just the timing never was right, and I was like, you can't pick somebody's brain in that type of a scenario. So I'm like, it's a good thing I have somewhere I could do that.
I appreciate you waiting,
so
man.
Here we are, dude. So I'm really excited. So take me through kind of, I would typically start by finding out kind of time period about you from leaving high school to now. Okay. But I think we should back it up earlier. Okay, so tell me your story.
Okay, well, so from the moment I was born, and me and my little brother were born, it started, just like everyone else. But the thing is, that story continued to carry on in that specific chapter, if you want to say.
Right.
In the chapter I mean is that when we were born, we were diagnosed to a rare disease. And this disease was called IPEX syndrome. Now at the time, there was only 2 out of 50 cases worldwide. So we were 2 out of 50 cases.
Come on.
Worldwide, yes. And because of that, they had no clue to what to do with us. And there's no one to blame here, but we were told I wouldn't be able to walk, I wouldn't be able to talk, I wouldn't be able to eat, I shouldn't go to grade school, high school, shouldn't be around people. So the way I come about it is, I want you to think of COVID, okay?
Okay.
I want you to think of COVID right now, but times 20.
Gross.
And that was our life, me and my brother's life.
In terms of like restrictions?
Restrictions,
isolations. Come on, dude.
Yes.
No.
Yes. To the point of where I was that guy and me and my brother were that guy where we would go to school and they'd have to Lysol our desks. And then we'd have to wear masks sometimes because if someone else in the classroom was sick, they weren't sure if our immune system could fight it. So therefore, it was a risk to even go to school.
Right, because there's so little like research or whatever on it. Eh?
And so to go to the core of what the disease was, and the reason why I brought up COVID was because our disease basically replicated that our immune system wasn't functioning normally.
Right.
So if we got a cold or if we got a sickness, instead of our immune system actually fighting it, we would actually hurt ourselves.
Right.
So it would be like a crisscross game where I would get a cold and that cold would multiply because my immune system wouldn't know what to do with it. And on top of this, we weren't taking care of ourselves either.
Right.
So during the time of having this disease, we were isolated all the time, so therefore we didn't get out much, right? We also had other health issues that came across with this immune system issue because our immune system was so weak, so it would actually create things like brain tumors, arthritis, epilepsy, chronic kidney disease, lung disease, pneumonia. I could do probably 30 or 40 different kinds of symptoms or issues that our bodies would actually replicate because of bad lifestyle factors and also because of our immune system already being weak and the environment we would be in, right?
Whoa.
And so with this, we were isolated.
Right.
And we were, like how COVID is right now, for me, for 18 years, and for my little brother, 10 years. And the thing I didn't mention was actually my little brother passed away at 10 years old.
Yeah.
And when he passed away, that was my biggest loss, and it still is, but it's turned into my biggest win.
Nice.
And we'll get into it, but it's created such a lesson for me that now that lesson is multiplied into multiple wins for not only myself, but others around me.
Right.
Right? And I truly believe that my little brother passing and having that disease and having that experience for 18 years, and also my little brother for 10, was necessary. And I don't regret any second of it.
Right.
And I'm not shameful or guiltful about, I wish my brother was here. I'm actually happy he's gone. As messed up as it sounds.
Right.
Because the reason why he needed to go is because I needed to see that.
Right.
And if I never saw my little brother pass away from that, I would have never changed myself.
Wow, interesting.
Yes.
So his life was almost teaching you or springboarding you into
Yes.
kind of streamlining what you were
Yes.
trying to accomplish or what you needed to
exactly.
be. More aware, I guess.
Well, the way I explain it is, so you big fan of Call of Duty or any video game? You know of it.
I know. I have played it. I know of it. You led with big fan. That's on me.
Hey, bro,
I'm sorry.
You're good.
Not
you're
the
good.
biggest.
As long as you know about it.
Yeah.
Okay. Often in these games, you have a squad where
Yep.
you have teammates, right?
I'm with you.
The way I explain it is my little brother was my teammate.
Mhm.
He was the only kid or person that I knew that had this disease, that had these issues.
Yeah.
So therefore, I was comfortable knowing that I had a co-op teammate beside me that we could suffer together
Whoa. Yeah.
and help ourselves out together. Now, the moment that he passed away and I had to use the self-revive on myself rather than him,
Right.
that's when crap hit the fan. That's when I had to get more personal with myself and actually ask myself and get the right coaching and the right prepping and the right people in my life
Yeah.
to guide me out of that hole that I believed I was only going to be in for the rest of my life.
Mhm.
But without Cam passing away
Yeah.
and without me using that revive I was planning on giving him
Right.
to myself, I don't think any of us would be here, me or him.
Jeez.
So it was either me or him. And the way it's worked out is I know there's a reason why I'm here and he's not. From the experience, from what I'm doing now, and the things I created from that. And then also being able to have these wonderful people around me and have the correct coaching and the right guidance.
Right.
And, you know, and so it goes back to that thing of everything happens for a reason.
Mhm. What I'm intrigued about, you say that kind of at that 10-year period, right?
Yeah.
What's the difference of age between
5.
the two? 5?
Yeah.
Okay. So you were, what, 15 then when
I
you
was around
passed?
15,
Yeah.
16. Yeah.
So at what point after that, like when you said he passed and you were able to kind of flip a switch, or sorry, a switch flipped
No,
in
I like
you,
that.
and you can have it. It's
I
all,
like
it's
that.
all yours.
I like
dude.
that.
It's all
Flip
yours.
the switch. There we go.
So, when you were able to flip the switch, how are you? What was kind of step one to figuring out? Like you realized all these things that you need to put different type of you need to put great people around you, right? Like people who are just on it. They know what they're doing. Whether they're like succeeding in it or not. Like their brain is like focused. They're driven, right? And they have all the right traits of like men and women that you want to be around,
Yeah.
right? How'd you kind of go about building that community around yourself in order to kind of make the necessary steps to discovering where you
Definitely.
had to go?
So, the answer I give that question is actually faith. Faith. Now, the reason why I say faith is because in my mind, and if I recall, I wasn't doing anything to deserve the amount of great people I had around me. In my power, I wasn't. What's interesting is connections led to connections, which then lended the helping hand from that.
Right.
Now, I wouldn't say I took any action to have those people. I actually was blessed and fortunate enough to be given those people through my family. My parents and my aunt, they knew of my coach. And so my coach heard of me, and it just so happened that it would perfectly work out at that time that he could then come and see me.
Right.
But without that connection happening between my aunt and then her friend, I call her my aunt, her name's Betty, and then that connection happening where they connected with Christian,
Right.
that wouldn't have happened. It wasn't like I was on my phone and I was looking at life coaches. I wasn't looking for people. I was actually planning to die.
Yeah.
I was planning to die up until I was 18 years old, and that was the time I met Christian, my coach. And up until I met Christian, my goal, or not even goal, my expectation was I'm going to die. So from the time my brother passed when I was 16...
I mean, that's all you knew, right?
That's all
As
I
an
knew.
outcome? Yeah.
That's all I knew.
For sure.
And for the next 3 years, up until I was 18, I just believed, well, there goes my kidneys. There goes my lungs. Oh, I got a brain tumor now. Oh, okay, I have pneumonia again. Hey, this is my life. I literally accepted everything like, oh, this is it. This is fine. And then when I was in high school, the doctors would tell me, well, you can do a bone marrow transplant to get rid of this disease, which is basically where they take the immune system and they basically give me some new blood cells.
Dude, that sounds so painful. Like, I can't even wrap my head around that.
Well, it's...
Jeez, what was that like?
I would say the biggest pain came actually from the mentality.
How so?
So, yes, there's injections.
Yeah.
There's IVs. There's tubes in your chest. You're on chemotherapy. You're isolated. You only see 4 walls for about 6 months straight. The only people who can see you is your parents.
You're in jail.
Then on top of that, you're on your phone in a bed, isolated, where you're watching all your friends and peers on Instagram.
No.
So it was, and this is happening every day. This is happening every day, and this is why I commit my life to serving those people.
Right.
But to answer that question, the reason why I say mentality was the hardest part was because, yeah, the pain was one thing. I was feeling the pain. But I had greater pain in my mind because I literally believed that all I equaled as my self-worth was that pain. I literally believed that that injection was all I was. I believed that those tubes in my chest was all I was. So therefore, those things were secondary, but the way I felt about myself was primary.
Right, for sure.
So my self-worth was in the can.
Yeah.
My wanting to live in the can. My friends and family, they tried their best, but I didn't believe anything they said.
Right.
And honestly, they couldn't really give much in their own power because it's very hard to help that.
Very.
All they can do is all they can do is just give their love and support.
Right.
And the rest is actually up to the person in the bed. It's up to the guy or the girl or the person in the bed. And when you don't have the proper tools, it's very hard to see a light outside of that.
For sure.
And so with the mentality comes depression, comes anxiety, comes PTSD, comes suicidal thoughts.
Yeah.
On top of the feelings of injections, I had needles in my spine 24/7. I had tubes in my chest. I had no hair, chemotherapy, everything. And despite of the physical pain, the emotional and mental pain was so much greater because it provided something that was like a huge demon that actually left a cage that I was isolating for 18 years. And so when that demon left the cage, I was lucky enough to have someone like my coach and have beautiful people like Jordan, Chase, and then my wonderful aunt, my mom, my dad, this support system that I didn't reach out to. They came to me. And that's where I say the faith was a part of it. And that's honestly where I believe my brother. My brother and God and, whatever we believe in, set that up. Because the way it worked out, in the mindset that I was in, and in the physical reality I was in, there is like no point of where that should have just happened.
No.
It's unheard of.
Right.
It's unheard of to have that many steps line up. And then for my coach to take a chance on someone without him even knowing really, and then that kid turning out to be who I am now.
Amazing.
So for all of that to line up and come full circle, I don't see any other answer than it just being God, faith, and my path and my journey and my reasoning, and kind of Cam being like a torch or someone to guide me on this path and saying like, no, Mike, you are living. I need to go. You need to stay here. You have a purpose. You have a mission, but I'm handing you my life to carry it on to others.
Is that what kind of got you through like the worst of worst days when it comes to it? Like what gets you through that when you're by yourself, alone, depressed, beaten up, don't know much of anything else really, right? At that point, I would assume.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? How do you get through that? Because that seems like what I'm trying to do right now is understand, and as well as I can, because walk a mile in somebody's shoes, right? I'm trying to empathize, right? And understand and put myself in those shoes to kind of figure out how I can understand what you went through and how other people can.
Definitely.
Right? So with that, how do you get through like those days? Like, is that was the driving force?
You want me to be honest with you?
On it? Yeah, for sure, please.
So I didn't get through those days. Those days stayed. What I did do was I numbed them. What I did do was I didn't pay attention to them.
Yeah.
Rather, I distracted myself. I would go on my video games. I would eat a lot of sugar. I'd have a lot of bad foods. I'd have coffee, pop, anything and everything to just take away the feelings of what I was feeling in myself.
Very short-term stimulants.
Yes. Now, the actual solution wasn't from that. The actual solution was actually looking at that demon straight in the face and actually beating it.
Mm-hmm.
Like actually seeing, why is this even here?
Right.
Why is this even in me? How can I change it to something else?
Yeah.
How can I make it into something better? Something that's going to actually benefit me. And that's where my coach helped me so much.
So Christians, take me through his role. Like, how did that kind of get started? You said...
he was my older brother.
Right.
He was my older brother. And he was the guy that was able to say, when everyone else was telling me and every other thing was telling me, you are a kid in the hospital bed, he was the one that told me you are more than just a kid in the hospital bed.
Mm-hmm.
When I got every test result back and everyone coming in my room and telling me how sick I was, he was the one that was telling me, Mike, you're going to get jacked.
Right.
He was the one telling me, Mike, you're going to play basketball.
Yeah.
He was the one telling me, Mike, I want you to visualize and feel how it's going to be when you leave this place.
Amazing.
That's his role.
Like showing you that there, hey man, there is
exactly
a better place you can be.
And before, when I didn't have that, all I knew was, hey Mike, your test results are bad, so we got to put you on this new medication.
Yeah, and you need
hey
side
Mike,
effect medication for the. Yeah.
Hey Mike, you know you're growing a lymph node in your neck. We think it may be cancerous. We're just gonna cut it open. Okay, cool. Bet. You know, I was an open book.
Yeah.
And honestly, a lot of people in that situation have to be open books because we are so desperate to just wanting to have some relief,
literally some glimpse of light,
some relief,
crack,
that anything that is given, whether it be 100% a solution or not, if there's a 50% chance that it may help us, we will do it.
Yeah.
And when I had my coach, and instead of giving me medications, and by no means am I, like, I'm not against it.
Right.
I do believe they serve a purpose, but it's to the point where that purpose is done and then you have to find something else.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have to find something else rather than just numbing and having that same effect of where you just get repeat. That comes to the point where you got to ask yourself, are you satisfied with how it makes you feel?
Right.
Right? And so my coach telling me, Michael, you're going to play basketball. That was my biggest goal.
Amazing.
Ever since I was young, because I'd always watch other people around me. Hey, they're playing basketball. I can't do it because I have arthritis. I'm 4'10", could barely hold my back up. I don't think I'll even live another year, so I'm not even going to try. But when my coach was telling me in the bed, you're going to play basketball, number one, I didn't believe him. But
I mean, how could you, right?
But number two is I had this connection with him where it was something different than what I was already being fed. In the regards of, it was actually something that was uplifting rather than decreasing. And that goes all the way back to the mentality part.
Right.
That's why I said the hardest battle is the mentality part. Because you're not only feeling how messed up you are, you're not only feeling injections, you're not only feeling chemotherapy, you're not only feeling tubes in your chest, you're actually feeling depression. You're feeling these thoughts, these demons that are literally eating at you, where you don't believe you could be anything greater than just in a hospital bed. You have that combined with the other stuff that you have to deal with regards to the pain, the physical pain.
Interesting,
And when the solution came of Christians saying, you're more than just a kid in the hospital bed, it gave me a reason to actually want to implement different things and do different things. Whatever way it may be. It's just like what I said. Even if there's a risk of 50%, we will take it because we just want to get out of this situation.
Right.
And even if that's death, and I'm being 100% with you. If someone said to me in that moment, and I've had it said to me before, you're going to die, I would be like, okay.
I mean,
what I expected this. What do you mean? I knew this all along. Look at my brother. He's already gone.
That's kind of the outcome.
That's already set. That's already set. But when Christian said to me, you're more than just a kid in the hospital bed, it was like, wow, that's so much more uplifting and more powerful than just, you have IPEC syndrome. You have arthritis. Your T cells are low.
Right.
You're having a very hard time with your kidneys. Your kidneys may fail. It's very different. You hear that, and then you hear you're more than just a kid in the hospital bed. Or you hear you're going to be playing basketball.
Right. The complete opposite end of what you've been hearing for decades.
And the one thing I want to make clear is these things are facts. These things are facts. This is also facts, though.
Right.
They are both facts, but you get to choose which way you go.
Isn't that crazy, dude?
It is.
That you can kind of choose what you want to do and then manifest that into something like that.
Yes.
But what I'm curious, as you say that, and you say kind of the role And so what I'm taking from that is Christian was kind of the stepping stone in the beginning that kind of implemented the hope into, hey, man, these are like, let the light shine through the cracks in the wall, right?
Yes.
And you're able to see that. And he was kind of from what I hear, is the first kind of glimpse into there could be something much greater than just this time in the hospital, right?
Yes.
Now, what was the beginning of in terms of medical related, right? What was kind of the beginning of that light shining through?
Day one.
Like, yeah?
What do you mean? Like, you mean solution?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Okay,
yeah.
So medical, I would say, if I'm being honest, I wouldn't say that they ever provided me a solid solution. I would say it provided me some short-term relief. I would say it gave me relief. Like when I had very bad arthritis, and I took Tylenol, or I took Advil, or I had injections in my hips, it gave me relief.
Right.
But I would always have to resupply on that relief. So was it a solution? No. Because I was always resupplying.
Right.
The solution was when I was able to take those feelings I would get from that brief relief and take it into a full solution on my own end. Which came from, okay, I really like how it feels when I don't have pain. How can I make this happen more frequently? How can I make this be a priority in my life?
Right.
How can I have this feeling all the time? You know? How can I have this thing be my primary thing?
Right.
Now, that's not to bash any of that. That's just my own experience.
Right.
And I found that I was on 30 medications day and night. I probably had over 150 surgeries within 18 years. I had countless different tests, x-rays, and such like that. And those things, they can help. But as far as a long-term solution like what I have now, it didn't happen until I switched it.
So you almost think so mentally is where you started to think differently about the situation you were in, and that was really the driving force.
I started to think differently, which then I acted differently. That's the thing.
So you built better habits.
I built better habits. I built better beliefs. I actually started to implement things that made me more confident.
Amazing.
Made me more happy. I started to dream up things rather than just being okay with, I'm just going to die.
Yeah, you kind of settle into this preconceived role that people are allowing you to believe.
Well, no, I'm allowing myself to believe.
Yeah.
It's not other people. It was never other people. And the shift came from when I took what other people gave to me.
Okay. Yeah,
so
that makes sense.
I had countless people help me throughout my 18 years. I did. Multiple doctors, multiple nurses, multiple people give me advice. Say, Mike, you should be drinking some water. Hey, Mike, maybe if you stood up a little bit, that could help you. Did I do it? No.
Right.
Reason why I didn't do it, though, is because I still had held on to I am just a sick kid. I am going to die, therefore this little brief exercise doesn't mean anything to me.
Yeah.
So I didn't have a reason to even change any of that.
All right.
It took someone like Christian to give me a reason, where he said, "You're more than just a kid in the hospital, but also you're gonna get jacked. You're gonna play basketball. You're gonna be able to drive. You're gonna be able to do normal things." That was a huge reason compared to, you might have to get a kidney transplant 2 years. Or, you know what, you got to go through a bone marrow transplant. Or, hey, you know what, we got this new medication. We don't know if it'll work, but it may work.
Right.
Two different things.
Very.
This reason was so much greater than these reasons. And that's when the shift happened. And interesting enough is my brother never had a reason. My brother, for his full 10 years, never was told anything I was given.
Jeez.
With the regards of, hey, Cam, you know what, you can be in the military. Hey, Cam, you know what? You can play hockey. Hey, Cam, you know what? Yeah, you want to play football? Who cares about your height? You can do it. No one was doing that. And that's not to blame anyone. That's just how the circumstances and what everything was showing us was showing.
Jeez.
And so when Christian came out of the box and he said completely opposite.
Right, something you've never heard of anybody say to you.
That's what shifted. That's what needed to be said, and that's what changed everything.
So, Michael, in terms of medical, what I want to know is, do you ever feel in the few years you've kind of been, as you kind of get away from that stage, how do you feel medically that they kept you there? Or like they wanted you to stay there?
No.
Like they would give you treatment?
No.
Like what's your opinion on just kind of how the medical system was?
I believe, so number one I'll say is I don't believe any individual ever did anything to harm me. Ever.
Right, no.
Never. I don't
Absolutely
believe
not.
that for
Right.
a second. What I do believe, though, is that the system has a lot of flaws.
Okay.
That's what I believe.
Yeah.
I don't believe that individuals actually were trying to keep me there,
No.
but I do believe the system has a lot of flaws.
So you think, so no personal intent
No,
was to keep you
no.
there.
And the only way I could
Right.
leave was from myself. So even if someone was trying to keep me there, it's not they can't do that.
Right.
I have to allow them to keep me there.
That's
Which,
true,
if that was the case, I was allowing them. But it wasn't.
Interesting.
I honestly just believe that my life is being sick.
Mm-hmm.
My second home is the hospital. Therefore, I got my house in the hospital. Therefore, my friends, my family, the doctors, the nurses. Therefore, anything outside of that doesn't really matter. So I do not believe that I was ever kept there.
Right.
I just believe that I needed different options.
Yeah.
And until I got those different options is when I actually had my success.
Now, you said it was a personal, you said it was Betty who introduced you to
Yes.
Christian?
So Betty is
personal
actually...
related. Like nobody in the hospital reached
No.
out to different...
No.
Interesting.
No.
So it's all
But
kind
they
of treatment.
no, but they did.
'Cause that's what
they,
I'm trying to wrap my head around.
They had therapists. I had great therapists. I had great doctors. I had people that were giving it their all.
Mhm.
But the actual help that I needed for my own specific needs
Right.
didn't come from them. It came from Christian.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I'm saying.
Yeah. Okay.
So the shift actually came from outside of that.
Right.
So even though people were trying their best to give whatever they had in their own power to give,
Mm-hmm.
it came from outside of that.
Right.
And, we can get into it, but there is a lot of things that need changing. There is a lot of things that isn't really talked about. And there is a lot of things that goes on that is very, very hard to work with when you're trying to get better.
Okay.
But then again, that isn't anyone's fault.
Right.
That is just how it's built.
Mhm.
That is what the system is. That is what the hospital and everything is built, right?
Well, I want to ask you then. Okay. You have a magic wand.
Yep.
You wave it, and you say, "Okay, I'm gonna fix blank." From what your experience was, the medical industry.
Mm-hmm.
Wave a magic wand, poof, you change blank. What is the one thing? You said there's many things you could change. If you had the ability to do one, like change
Support.
one. Yeah? How so?
Support and coaching. Support and coaching. When you're in there, you are not really shown anything outside of there.
Yeah.
You are shown through media, through TV, through people coming in and out that there is something out there, but you're not actually told.
Right.
There was not one doctor that ever told me, "Hey, Michael, you know what? You're more than just a kid in the hospital bed."
Mm-hmm.
Never. And that's not to bash anyone.
Right.
That's just, it didn't come from that avenue. It came from my coach.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing I would say that needs the most improvement is the way that it's actually functioned.
Mm-hmm.
When you're in a bed, and this is where there's a lot of different crisscross about it, but the way I come about it is, first of all, you're trying to pump yourself, right?
Right.
If you want to get nutrients and you want to get things moving in your body, you got to move.
Facts.
When you're in a bed 24/7
You're not moving.
and not moving,
No.
but yet you're getting bed sores, you're getting inflammation in your ankles, your neck isn't able to function, so therefore you have to have a pillow to hold you up.
Yeah.
When you have all those things, I would change something there.
Mm-hmm.
I would make it literally mandatory on the regards of, hey, how are you feeling today? Do you think that we could just try, and get you up, just walking up and down the hall for maybe 5 minutes?
5 minutes of walking.
5 minutes.
And then slowly.
And then on top of that, I want you to do deep breathing while you're doing it.
Yeah.
Now, they do that.
Yeah.
They do. But is it pushed? It's something where it's like, hey, do you want it? And honestly, the state that you're in, you don't want it.
Right. You don't want to do anything.
You don't want to do anything. So when they
make it
come to your
mandatory,
room, when they come to your room And of course, there's so many factors. Like, some people, I've been in wheelchairs. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes you can't be up and moving because you're literally in a chair.
Right.
You're literally, your legs don't function, your arms don't function, but what can you do with that? And the way that I come with that is a reason.
Right.
A reason to do the toughest things when everything else around you is showing you shouldn't.
Yeah.
You know, when my coach told me, Michael, I want you to sit up tall and I want you to do deep breathing, I didn't want to do it. I didn't.
No.
I didn't care to. And what happened was he was like, okay, you don't care? Do you care about basketball? I go, yeah. He goes, okay, well, you're going to do this then. And I did it.
Yeah.
And then gradually,
Incentives.
things got better, right?
Right.
Now, I don't think it's anyone's control in the medical field, as far as doctors and nurses. And it's the system as a general thing.
There's no role.
Like, above that.
Right.
And to expect people who are in that to do this hard weights is very unfair.
Right.
It's very unfair. Because first of all, it has to come from the patient.
Yeah.
It has to come from the person in the bed. You know, you can't expect that these people doing it for you will do it for you, right? If you know what I mean. Like, you can't expect someone to say, hey, I'm going to stand up for you, I'm going to drink water for you, and I'm going to do deep breathing for you, therefore you're going to get better. No, that doesn't work. It's you got to do those things. But why are you going to do those things? Why are you going to do those things? What are those things going to get you? Where are they going to put you? What's going to benefit you? What's going to happen when you do that, right?
Right.
And that's where the whole thing about the goal, the reasoning comes in.
Right.
So, if I had to change one thing, is really it's not even down to treatment or anything. It's down to the whole vibe, the whole energy of even being in hospitals, where you're constantly just shown everything that is wrong. You're never shown opposite. And the only way you're shown opposite is if you have friends and family come out from the outside, which now, because COVID, it's even harder to do that.
Yeah, near impossible.
Or you have social media, which is a whole nother battle, because you can't really control what you see. If you go look for it, you can, but you're going to see all your friends, your peers, partying, living
everybody
life.
doing everything you'd want to be doing
But
versus
you can't.
what you're doing now.
But you can't.
You physically can't.
Yeah. And then on top of that, you're in a hospital where you're surrounded by 4 walls, and those are the walls you see every day. And then your best friend is the nurses that come and visit you, which are amazing.
Yeah.
Because the nurses, I'm telling you, the nurses and doctors, they are a huge reason why people are okay to even be in a hospital.
Right.
To have that actual companionship and friendship. Like, there's been countless nurses and doctors that have done so much for me. Just by saying hello. Just by coming into our room and talking to us. Just by saying, Michael, how's your day going? Or, hey, can I get you something? Or, hey, you watch the Raptors games.
Yeah, just little things like that, eh?
That stuff means the world. And that's what the highest thing, in my opinion, that ever gave me hope that they provided.
Right.
When I had the nurses who I love dearly come in and check on me and make me feel actually, like, loved in the regards of, like, outside where all I saw was my friends on Instagram and social media just partying it up. I had these people who literally dedicate their lives to serving these people come in on their own time and actually say, how are you doing? Hey, Michael, can I bring you something? Hey, Michael, did you watch the Raptors games? Hey, that stuff, right? So I wouldn't say that there's a specific thing in there that needs to be changed. I would say there is something that you need to grow upon.
Right.
You know, there is things. Like, there is therapists. There is things, if you want it, you can do it. If you want to grab a cane and you want to walk up and down your hall, someone will provide that for you. And someone will show you.
Right.
If you want.
Yeah.
The part that is missing is the want from the people who are in the bed, because they don't believe they can have anything else. They don't believe that, hey, I can actually do something. Or, hey, this is temporary and I actually have a life outside of the hospital.
Right.
Or, hey, I watch my friends right now on social media and Instagram and stuff partying. I can do that one day. It's a very small belief, but it's in there. The problem is that it's not grown. It's not grown. And then therefore, without that belief, you don't take the action to get there.
No, and it isn't manifested.
Yes.
Right.
And then the reason why I feel so blessed is, in my knowledge, I've been the only one that's been able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So now I am the greatest example to show with these kids.
You're the outlier.
I'm
of
the
group.
outlier.
Yeah, of the 50.
What I can show and what I can be to show what they can become.
Jeez.
And
Is that not the coolest thing, though? Is that not amazing?
So fulfilling. That's why I said,
Dude.
like, my story's been a hell of a fight, but it's been a hell of a win.
For sure, dude.
It's been, like, I tell this all the time. My greatest loss has turned into my greatest win. And it's still providing me wins. And my greatest loss was losing my little brother. And it's still creating wins.
Yeah.
Same with IPEC syndrome and all that stuff. I know now. I not only know, like, I have a good experience in health now. Like, I've studied it and I've become a coach. But I also know what it's like to be in the bed.
Right.
I know what it's like to receive treatment. I know what it's like to have no one hitting you up.
Yeah.
I know what it's like to have tubes in your chest.
Yeah.
So I have both sides. But it was only because I had to go through that to now have the side I have now.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That makes sense. What I think is interesting to me, and I love that you use the word fulfillment, because I think at the end of the day, that's what we're all searching for. Mm-hmm. I think how we do it, whether we connect through different people, right, and like-minded individuals, and however we do that and we grow. I think our purpose is to grow, but we all search for that sense of fulfillment, right? And I think that you having a amazing sense of fulfillment now, from what I'm hearing, and then seeing how it's only grown. Like, dude, you're young as shit. Like, it's crazy.
And I'm so thankful.
It's amazing, dude. It's the craziest thing in the world. And I think something that I want people to be aware of, I want people to, like, look at photos of you. Because I have had friends who smoked for 10 years, quit, and then a year. And they do, like, a lot of comparative photos, right? Before and after. But if we're trying to be trendy, right? But I've seen friends who, they're in weddings and they're over 400 pounds. And then now they're like 168 and jacked. And you're like, how are these crazy things happening? Yeah. I've never seen a transformation as incredible as the one you've made.
Thank you.
And I don't mean that in just physical. I mean that as in, you said you weren't supposed to be able to talk and you weren't walking. And then for me to hear that, and that you've only recently, like, dude, to see how much somebody, and just like a lot of what I'm saying is not so much from watching videos and researching you, but from talking to people who are in your close circle, or people who know you or know of you, and they're going, hey man, he's only really been like diving into like the skills, like the social skills, for like 3, 4, 5 years, right? So me hearing that and me going, you speak better and you're way more articulate than a lot of 30-year-old friends of mine, is something that,
thank you,
to this day I will not
thank you
understand. And I think that, my friend, I have to compliment you on
thank
that
you
immediately.
Thank you.
I can't let that go. Like,
thank you so much.
I need to shout that out, because I think there's something huge to be said for wanting to get better at a skill, or just want to do something, and you're just, at the end of the day, right, you're probably just searching for that sense of fulfillment, right? Like, you're doing it based on your experience and
my code,
right?
My code, that's it.
Amazing.
My code. Yeah.
So in doing that, and then the skills that you've gained, and not just gained, but exceeded in terms of having, like, you're very articulate, you speak very well.
Thank you.
And I'm like, this guy speaks better than I do. I'm 25. I've been speaking for X amount of years. He speaks better than I do.
Thank you.
Do you read a lot? Like, how has that been for you? Like, what's that? Let's talk about that. Like, that social kind of linguistic stuff. Like, how's that been for you?
So, I believe this to be true, and I believe that we reflect what's inside us. Right. So, with regards to the fuel we put in our body, right? Whatever we eat, we're going to reflect that. If we're eating McDonald's all the time, we're going to have a lot of fat. We're going to have a lot of inflammation, and we're going to also have a lot of bags under our eyes and probably not feel as well, right? If we're eating healthy living foods, like salads, nice chicken, proteins, getting the right amount of things for your specific needs, you're going to reflect that too. Right. You're going to have muscles, you're going to get abs, you're going to get a six-pack, whatever you want to say. The same goes for the way you feel.
Right.
So if you're feeling depressed, sad, mad, irritated, I'm a firm believer that that will reflect in one, how you talk to others, and also two, in actually your physical, the way you look, the way you feel to others, your vibe, your presence.
And I'm sure that gives you confidence to, everything's reps, right? So I'm sure that gives you confidence to want to like speak more and go to more people, and like the more people you're able to kind of interact with, you need those skills to be
definitely
like sharp.
Definitely.
Right? So.
But the reason why I was bringing that up is, now this is a whole nother part of it, but
amazing.
I literally, because of my beliefs and because of my reasoning with myself, I didn't believe I was going to live. So therefore, did I ever put any effort into school? No.
Zero.
I would go to high school when I was healthy enough, when I could, and I would be shooting basketballs in the gym during a math class that I should be in. Was it because I wanted to avoid math?
No.
To an extent.
Probably.
To an extent. Yeah. But it was because I didn't care. I didn't think I would ever need math. Man, I'm going to die in 3 years. Why does that matter?
Yeah.
Why does that matter?
To threes.
Yeah,
really.
Why does that matter?
Jeez.
You know what? During this time, just like I said about the medications and the pops and everything, I'm going to play basketball. Right. Because during this small time of playing basketball, it gives me a short period of relief, of fulfillment. So therefore, me going to math class and actually trying to learn something isn't a high priority of mine.
Right.
Because I'm going to be just dead anyways. So therefore, I don't need to really pay attention to that. Let me just enjoy what I have right now. That's what I would do. So the reason why I brought that up is up until I met Christian, I was not intelligent at all. Not because I wasn't intelligent, but because I never picked up those tools and used them. You know, I never went out of my way to actually go to classes.
Right.
I was often late for my classes because I didn't care. Yeah. And also because I had arthritis through the roof. So therefore, I would care more about the pain of the arthritis than, oh, I got to go learn some English.
Yeah.
And when I met Christian and we started to draw up my plan and what I wanted to do, and we were saying, oh, Mike, you know, you want to play basketball? Well, in order to play basketball, you got to communicate. When you're on the court, you got to say, hey, screen left, screen right. Do you know what right and left means, Mike? Sorta. Yeah. Like, that's how bad it was. Yeah. So when we kept on doubling up on my wants and my reasons, we kept on doubling up on, as well, what I had inside me. Which then reflected to now what I have now. And I'm still growing on it. I still have a lot more work to do. But I've implemented reading. I didn't read my first book fully till I was 18 years old.
Jeez.
So I was 18 years old, and the first book I ever read fully was Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill.
Nice.
And the reason why...
Great book.
I know. But the reason why that was so big was because it was actually something I had interest in.
Yeah.
I was actually hopeful, and I had faith that me reading this book would make me better. Jeez. Would make me in that mindset that I need to be in order to play basketball. Yeah. In order to one day actually have a business. To actually... own a business, use a business, be an authority figure, you know? But up until I had that point, I never cared.
Right.
So the action steps I've taken is I've read books. I've done multiple courses. I've made sure that I've been on my grind with reading, with writing, journaling, meditating, speaking.
All of which are super underrated, right?
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything. Because I needed to get to this point in order to do like a podcast like this.
Yeah.
In order to even speak with you, in order to be around people in general.
Yeah.
If we put myself when I was 18 years old, at the point of when I was 20, if we swapped roles real quick, when I got asked to go to 5 Cent City, I would be a shit show.
Yeah.
And I was. Actually, the first year I went, I couldn't even hold my head up. I couldn't even... Christian had to... First of all, they had to put an umbrella over my head. Because I was on medications that if I was in the sun...
Come on!
Yeah. I was at 5 Cent City, and if I was in the sun for a brief moment, I would get blisters on my skin. Because I was on a medication that would literally react that way. So coming back to the whole education part, I've taken the steps needed in order to be able to be like this. But it all came from, number one, my reasoning.
Yeah.
Like me reading books and getting more better at writing and doing more courses was making me a better suit to now help kids in hospitals. It also made me more primed of being more confident, being able to have friends, being around girls, being around all that stuff that I always desired from when I was younger that I never had. So therefore, everything else was a prime tool to use to attach to that want, right?
Right.
And then when I got my coach saying, "Hey, Mike, I want you to take this course," I was like, "Bet, let's do it. Let's do it." Because I knew this course was number one in my hobbies.
Yeah.
It was regarding business, and it was going to make me better and get me closer to my goals.
Mm-hmm.
But before that, I didn't have that. So when I would hear on my announcements or the parents telling me, "Hey, Mike, why weren't you at math class?" I didn't care.
Yeah.
I didn't care. What was math doing for me? Back then, all I thought was I was going to be dead.
Yeah.
So, am I going to play basketball or do math when I'm going to be dead in 2 years?
Yeah.
Probably basketball.
Basketball for sure.
Yeah,
for
probably
sure.
basketball. So, therefore, that's how I lived my life for 18 years. But the moment I decided to want to get better, I had to do that hard work.
Interesting.
Very hard work. Every day still, I wake up, I journal.
Mm-hmm.
Every day I wake up, I do courses. I make sure I read. I make sure I'm doing meditations. I make sure I'm doing affirmations. I have literally a ritual or a pattern, whatever you want to say, a routine that I do every morning that I've done ever since I was in the hospital bed.
Yeah.
And ever since I started in the hospital bed, it's expanded. It went from just doing, "Hey, Mike, you're going to do spinal exercise." It went from being, "Hey, you're going to do spine exercise, you're going to do pumping exercises, and you're going to do stretches." Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, you're going to just journal, 1 page. Mike, you're going to actually do 5 pages of journaling. You're going to write about how you're feeling, what you're going to do, where you're going to be. Write it. Every single day.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that be me on my phone typing it, whether it be me in my journal, whether it be me actually speaking about it, coaching myself, I'm doing it. And that's how I've been able to actually get this.
Mm-hmm.
And it all came from the reason and the proper coaching and the proper wanting of that thing.
Okay. So that fascinates me. And one of the things that a few people told me kind of that stood out in terms of business. Okay. I heard a rumor. All right. From a plethora of people, if you will, dude.
Okay.
So there's a time, and I'm not quite sure specifically on the time frame that this took place, but you were physically unable to walk, but you were selling shoes out of your hospital bed.
I was.
Yes. That's probably the most gangster thing I've ever heard.
Thank you, man.
Like,
appreciate that.
And that's like saying something. Like that's ridiculous. Like, take me through that, dude. Like,
you're right. You're right. So the reason that I started selling shoes was, as you know, my biggest value was basketball.
Mm-hmm.
And sneakers and basketball kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah.
You know, you watch NBA, the guys always got nice kicks.
Custom shoes.
They always got collabs.
Amazing.
They always, so it's kind of correlated with each other. So, because I was so in line with my values with regards to basketball and sneakers, I was always known as the guy that had nice sneakers.
Right.
A lot of my connections and friends leading up to the point of where I decided to get better was just from, this guy has nice sneakers. He knows about sneakers.
Yeah.
He's got really good clientele in shoes. He knows what he's doing with shoes. So, when I graduated high school, and all my peers were going to college and university, and I couldn't because I was preparing for a bone marrow transplant, I was blessed and fortunate enough that from my wonderful teachers and wonderful people around me, they nominated me for scholarship awards.
Amazing.
Which then I won 4 scholarship awards. And with that money that I got from those awards, I started to say to myself, I really like sneakers. Why don't I just start selling them? Instead of just collecting them, why don't I just start selling them? It'll be perfect because I can't get a job.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be in a hospital all day, so I can literally just post them up on Facebook, Instagram, and then be able to sell them from there. And maybe meet up with a couple people on the way back from my hospital visits.
Amazing.
Which is what I did.
Yeah.
And that was another crucial piece of why I'm even here today. Because that came down to a reason. That was another reason for me to stay alive. I knew, wow, I may feel really shitty right now, but I can get on my phone and I can take some really good pictures of shoes. And I know when I post these shoes up, I am not only feeling good about it, but I also have other people reaching out to me, which was something I lacked for so long.
Right.
It was that connection and belonging. So when I was in the sneaker community, I felt that connection and belonging.
Yeah.
Because not only were they reaching out to me, they would come visit me. They would message me, Mike, how you doing? Hey, Mike, we got the Jordan 1 Mochas in. You want to come see them?
Nice.
Sure. Just stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that kept me going. And then what happened was it led to a road where sneaker selling was amazing, but I knew I was capable of so much more.
Right.
Which was when then I started to really work on myself with regards to my body, my mind, and getting myself prepped in to be who I am now, to be able to be the best example for that crowd in hospitals.
Amazing.
But it started, like the entrepreneurship journey started from when I was 18. I won a bunch of scholarship awards, used that money, went to Nike outlets, went on Facebook Marketplace, bought a bunch of sneakers, created a very small, ugly logo, called it Mike's Closet, and I sold sneakers for 2 years.
Nice.
And then from there, I sold over like 100 different pairs. Jeez. I had over 700 connections, and I still have connections. And now my buddies who own sneaker stores in Hamilton, we're working on stuff together. We're helping each other out. We're like brothers.
That's amazing.
But it's come full circle,
Yeah.
right? And that goes back to everything happening for a reason, right? And without that being the case, I wouldn't be here.
Jeez. That's probably like the coolest thing, man. Like
Thanks,
that's man, it's just so wild for me to think.
Thanks.
Just how you're able to do that with, whether it be just you're finding what you wanted to do and what you knew. Like, it must have been so different to switch your mindset to no longer short-term thinking, right? Because like, I don't need to do math. Me, I use math every day. I'm dividing fractions like every like 12 minutes, right? With measuring tapes and whatever, right? I'm dividing like 3/8 plus like 2/16. What is that? You know. So I'm doing like, I'm dividing fractions, thinking I'm never using math, trying to calculate angles to build walls, like all this stuff that I never thought I'd use. But it's all comes back to the long-term goals, right? Versus the short-term where you're like, oh, I'm not going to use math. Well, now you got to count your money, dude. Now you got to divide, like,
I got to count my money.
Tax,
I got to make sure when I'm helping clients. I got to make sure when I'm helping clients, okay, they need this amount of water, or hey, they need this amount of reps, or hey, they need this amount of weight.
Right. The percentages of that, right?
I couldn't do that before.
No.
And still, I'll be honest, I'm still not a genius at it.
Right.
Math is by any sense, my strong suit. It is better than it was before, and it's serving me at this moment. But yeah, I'm going to still continue to improve on it.
Yeah.
Same with my English, my speaking, like everything. I've had to just continue to double up on to get me to where I want to be. And Mike's Closet, or my sneaker business, was like kind of just the birth of Camo and what I do now, and like my entrepreneurship journey. And then it gave me the experience of working with individuals, when who would have known that I would be doing that for the rest of my life. Right. And all that came from was, I'm going to die in 2 years. I have this money. I need money. So I'm going to flip some shoes to make some money.
Nice.
And then when that happens, if I live, cool. If not, I sold some shoes. I made some money, and I could maybe buy myself some more shoes, you know? But then it turned into, hey, you know what? No, I can continue to do this. And then I started getting healthier. And it got to a point where that didn't even fulfill me anymore. And then I had to shift that.
Okay. So, speaking of shifting, shifting gears to now that you're coaching, right? You're focused on the business, and now it's, I'm sure hospital visits are still, like, they still happen, but I'm sure they're few and far between, if any, right?
I'll tell you this. I can't even go into hospitals right now.
Is that not, like, a bit of that makes you happy?
It makes me happy to know.
Yeah, like, I'm sure, is there not, like, a little part of you that, like, you're just relieved you don't have to go back? No?
I actually want to go back. And I've been trying my hardest to go back and be in there. And there's been a lot of walls to do so. And I know in my own power that I give this analogy a lot. And the analogy I say is, like, all my life I was on the bleachers. All my life I was watching other people shine on the court. Then I met my coach, and he came to me on the bleachers, and he said, Mike, don't you want to be on the team? And I said, I would love that, but I don't think I can. We started to practice overtime. Then better. I made the team. I'm on the team right now, but I'm on the bench. I'm on the bench, and I'm waiting, or I'm prepping to be subbed in.
No, you're practicing. You're getting
practicing.
Better. Yeah.
So as far as being in the hospitals, that is me being on the court. That is me actually putting up points on the board. I'm putting up points on the board now, but to a whole nother extent, that's what would happen if I was in there right now.
Ah, I see, yeah. Okay. So you're kind of going back, but the reason is different. Right? It's less of a, treatment
I'm
aspect,
excited.
more of like a,
and
hey,
that's
look how
the
far I've
shift.
come, right?
That is the shift.
Mm-hmm.
Is I'm going through a gap now where I no longer need to have people tell me about an X-ray or tell me about a medication, because I'm on no medications. I don't do X-rays. I honestly, I'm confident in what I have right now, and I know in my own self, because of the results I've been given, that my body is fine. I don't need meds. I don't need surgeries. I don't need... So therefore, when I go back into hospitals, I'm not there to be a patient. I am there to be an assistant, a coach, a guide, to then allow these kids and these people who don't believe they can be anything, be the best example of that.
Amazing.
And show them that.
Nice.
But as far as actually being in there right now, I can't.
Zach, you had a real quick. Nice. So, with the... That's interesting that shift has, it's very, very different, it seems, right? It's a productive reason. And now, switching gears to, with the coaching, you do most of it, like, not obviously over Zoom or like online.
I do. So, I do a lot of coaching in person, but a lot of my coaching I do with in person isn't necessary for kids in hospitals.
Right.
A lot of the people I coach in person are, it's interesting because everyone has emotions, right?
Right.
And
sure.
I learned this analogy from my coach a long time ago, where every situation and every circumstance creates an emotion. The difference is the emotion always stays. The circumstances and situations leave.
Oh,
so when you leave someplace, but you still have the negative emotions, that's a cue to check in about what's going on there, right? And the reason why I'm bringing that up is a lot of the people I help who are in person, who aren't in hospitals, have the same emotions that people feel when they are in hospitals.
Right.
Notice the circumstances, the situations are different.
Yeah.
People feel lack of connection all the time, lack of belonging all the time, depression all the time, PTSD all the time, suicidal thoughts, everything. Now, are they necessary in a hospital bed? No.
Probably not. No.
But they still feel the same things. And what's interesting is that's how I kind of work, or I kind of move.
Right.
And so when I'm doing that, I'm making sure I'm not only judging what's going on outside, but I'm judging inside. And what's crazy is I even had the purest example with my own life where I was leaving the hospital consistently, but I still had the same emotions I felt when I was in the hospital when I went home. So then what happened was when I was at home, I still felt lack of belonging, lack of connection. I still felt depression, anxiety, PTSD, suicidal thoughts. But I wasn't in a bed. I wasn't isolated to four walls.
Right.
But I was still feeling those things. So what's the correlator here? Well, I never addressed those four things.
Right.
I never figured out what's going on with those four things. And so therefore, the hospital definitely doesn't help it.
No.
Hospital doesn't help it by any means. It's, if anything, just times 20 when you're in a hospital and you're feeling those feelings. But when you're outside a hospital, you still feel those feelings. And so therefore, me coaching individuals, I go based off that. Now, as I was expressing earlier, I can't go in hospitals right now.
Right.
Which is, in my opinion, really bad and really not good. And a lot of stuff that blocks that is, it's just not possible right now.
Right.
So therefore, the only way that I can reach my audience is through social media, through interviews, through exposure, just trying to get on the floor any way I can, even if I have to find my teammate who's on the bench and take their jersey and then go on.
Nice.
Right?
Right.
That's unfortunately the part I'm at right now. But the part that I'm at is creating the part where I'm going to be at in a couple years, couple months, you know?
Yeah.
But I have to keep that same feeling and same emotion as for when I'm in the present circumstance right now.
So, what I want to know, with all that being said, how do you compartmentalize when you're using social media as a tool for coaching or for business?
Yeah.
How do you manage to compartmentalize spending time that's business focused versus spending time that's pleasure focused, in terms of, like, you get down that rabbit hole that we talked about for a while. We went down a bit of when we first FaceTimed, right? A week or so ago.
Yeah.
It's, how do you manage that? Like, how do you, because everyone's like, oh, well, I run my business on my, countless people I know, dude. They're like, oh, I run my business on my phone,
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, I know what you're doing on your phone. Like, it's not, how do you compartmentalize those? those two? Like separate it? Do you
I'm not
take
perfect.
breaks from it, or?
I'm not perfect, but I do take breaks. I actually mute certain things that I don't want to see. I've had things in my life where it goes back to the emotions. If I get something where I see something and it make me feel a certain way, whether it be sad or not fulfilled, I don't see it anymore. But the moment I get stuff that I actually feel uplifted with, or actually enjoy, I allow myself to see those things. But I usually, the way I go around that is, first of all, like I said, I mute people or I mute accounts.
Has to be done.
Has to be done.
Yeah.
And that's not, first of all, it's not the people's fault that you're muting.
No.
It's your fault. It's your own fault. In the regards of, you got to ask yourself, why does that affect you?
Yeah, you let it get to you.
Why does that hurt you? Why does that make you feel a certain way? And then that's where you work from.
Yeah.
So the way I motivate with it is, okay, right now I cannot see this stuff.
Yeah.
But what is this providing me? Is this making me feel sad? Why is it making me feel sad?
Yeah.
Why does it make me feel discouraged? Why is it hard for me to look at this stuff?
Right.
Therefore, I just mute it and I deal with the things that actually pop up when I see it.
Yeah.
Whether that be me actually going to talk with my coach, whether that be me coaching myself, whether that be me journaling, writing about it, meditating on it. That's the way I work around it. Now, I also set time limits.
For sure.
So I make sure that every day my phone closes the app when I've gone over an hour. So if I'm over an hour on social media,
Brilliant.
It closes it.
Yeah, so you have to make sure you're
I
productive.
have to make
while
sure.
you're on
Now,
it.
the only time I go over is I'm on it a lot because, as I said, like all of my content is through social media.
Right.
So my editing, my texting, my direct messages, my connections are all on social media. So sometimes I will go over.
Right.
Because I have to write captions, I have to answer DMs, I have to make sure that I'm on top of my business, but also not going on top of, like you said, the pleasure part.
Right.
And the part of where it can be detrimental to your actual progress or growth.
For sure.
And then therefore, when you let that overtake it, your business doesn't really matter because you're so consumed about these negative things that the business is just secondary, which you don't want.
Right.
So I would say the biggest things that I work around that, and honestly I would recommend it for anyone, especially if you're in a hospital. I wish I knew this when I was in the hospital, that you mute certain accounts,
Right.
you set time limits, and you also make sure that the people and the things you're following give you something in return. If you look at someone's account, and this is where the muting things comes in, right? You know, you know people, we know people who they may post something and we may not like it, or we may not really vibe with it. Therefore, there's no reason to criticize it. There's no reason to give resentment. There's just a reason to check in with yourself and see why it affects you.
For sure.
So therefore, you put it on pause, you mute it, and then you move on to yourself, right? So I recommend that you set time limits. You also make sure you're following people who give you content or things that you like to see. Not in a distraction way,
Right.
but in a way where it's somewhat productive, but it also gives you that, like
A bit of
fulfillment.
inspiration.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know? So whether that be, like, I love Gary Vaynerchuk. I love Tony Robbins. I love multiple people that are in that specific area.
Yeah.
Which then I watch their content because it gives me uplifting, right?
Yeah.
Which is kind of what I'm trying to do with my stuff too.
Yeah.
That's why I post, because I'm hoping that people can come back to my posts and feel that same way I feel with others, right? And then on top of that, if you have a screen limit, you'll be able to know, okay, I'm going overboard.
Right.
I'm going overboard. But then it's your decision to accept that screen limit and move on, right?
Right.
And so the way I move with it with regards to like pleasure and business is I make sure that I have those business barriers inbound. So I have the time limits.
Yeah.
I have the muted accounts. I make sure that I'm not spending too much time and energy worrying or dwelling or being critical on like comparing myself to other people,
Yeah.
which is the hardest thing with social media.
Facts.
So I make sure that I am not allowing those things to block me. Which regards is I'm in my business lane. Therefore, when I'm in my business lane, I am only in this lane. And if something else pops up, I have to earn looking at that.
Right.
I have to earn watching that TikTok. I have to earn making sure that when I'm doing this, it's not being very productive, but it's giving me a little bit of dopamine hit.
Right.
Right? I have to earn that. But as far as keeping me on social media, is I make sure, okay, Michael, you're on social media, but did you post today? Did you answer those DMs? Did you answer your comments? Did you get back to this person?
Yeah, were you engaging?
Was I engaging?
Right.
If not, then I'm disobeying that and I'm in the pleasure spectrum, right? Yeah. Which then, that's a dangerous place to be for a long time, because it's kind of like an outlet. And then instead of being two ways, like business and pleasure, you're just pleasure.
Right.
And then that causes issues with your business.
Right. So now, as we kind of get to the end, per se, of the show, before we get into the final thing I kind of want to go over with you, the more I talk to you and the more I hear you say things like just pertaining to what you said and how you're kind of as like very honestly like finger on the pulse for what
Thank you.
You're doing. No, dude, like
Thank
very
you.
welcome. And I hear that and I see it kind of manifesting into something really cool, and even just like recently being exposed to kind of who you are and what your story is. I want you to know that as I do my research process, and it's very unique to how I like to adapt to who my guests are, right? Because you don't want to find out very specifics. You want to leave a lot up to kind of what I want to discover now, but at the same time, you want to know. So my strategy is typically like I talk to people who know the person better than I do.
Yeah.
And the multitude of people that I reached out to who know you was not, it wasn't like, oh, I reached 100 people who knew. It was how fucking excited they were for me to be talking to you today. And that hit hard for me. That was amazing. I felt so impacted hearing that, and like just I could hear the energy and be like, yeah, so I'm getting this person on the no way, no, that's my dude. And I'm like, no,
I love it.
And then, dude, swear to God though, and then the energy goes all the way up to the call. Like, oh man, this is crazy. No pressure, dude.
I love that.
No pressure on me. You're all right. With me, I'm like, all right, let's do this. All right.
Hey man, you killed it.
Questions, right? So, but appreciate it a lot, by the way.
For real, no, you did.
What I want to know, kind of as we get towards the end, I needed to tell you that, like the enthusiasm.
That makes me feel so happy, man.
Dude. I can only imagine. It was kind of hilarious to hear, just like the casual, like, yeah, buddy, what's going on? Just chewing the fat, shooting the shit, whatever you want to call it. And then they go, no, and I'm like, right on, it's the best, man. So I just felt like sharing that with you, just so
that makes, man,
there is an impact you're making. I know a lot of people make an impact on you, but
thank you.
You're making one on people, and I just want you to be aware of that.
Thank you, because that is something I need to, because I do, like, everyone has downs, right? I'm by no means perfect, and I often dismiss what I've already done, right? And I get caught up in things that may not have worked out, or things that I want to happen but haven't happened yet. And instead of paying attention to the individuals I've been already able to affect, or the people I've been able to have in my life already, I get discouraged of the people I haven't been able to have, or the people I haven't been able to impact. And I know I will, and I know it's coming, but to remind myself at this present moment to hear that just gives me so much happiness and fulfillment. So seriously, thank you.
Dude, you're very, very welcome. Now, as to kind of end, do you have any last minute, whether it be final analogies or messages or advice or tips or things that you kind of want to share? I'm sure we'll do this again in the future once as we can kind of see in like a nice warmer studio,
No, you're good, man.
Like that.
I love it.
I'll bring Zach back to produce too. It'll be great. Right on. So do you have any last kind of things you want to share?
I would say that I hope that after anyone listening to this and knowing of me, and that's why you telling me those things makes me feel so fulfilled. Because at the end of the day, honestly, I'm here and I know this for a reason, and I know my purpose, which is just to show and be the best example of what anyone can become. Now, I'm just by chance targeting individuals in hospitals because I know it's somewhere that is so needed, but in my grand scheme or like my biggest dreams, my mission is just to be able to have purpose and impact and know that when I leave for good, like not when I was guessing when I was younger, but I know when my day comes and I leave and I know that I've impacted someone, that fulfills me. And the reason why I bring that up is for anyone listening to this, I hope that hearing me speak and listening to what I have to say, and also hearing Glenn and being able to just be in this atmosphere can kind of inspire you and motivate you
very much,
and allow you to also allow yourself to think about things that you want to achieve, things that you want to do, things that you want to have, and then really say to yourself that you can do it.
Right.
You know, mine was you're more than just a kid in the hospital bed, but yours may be you're more than just a guy working a 9 to 5. You know, you're more than just a kid studying for exams that you don't really know if you want to be in that field. Right. You know, and if you can just listen to this and know that, like I said, every circumstance and situation is different, but the emotions are the same. Therefore, if you look at the emotions, you can change something as well.
Amazing.
And the last thing I'll say is that just know that the decisions you make today gradually impact the decisions you make tomorrow and the next day, which then lead up into the outcome that you have a month from now, a year from now, 2 years from now. But you get to choose what decisions, and you get to choose what impact or what motivation you use to create that outcome down the road. That just so, if it's in God's path, it'll happen. Sometimes it's not, and that's okay. But you got to go back onto your path and realize why you were on it in the first place, and really think about maybe that wasn't meant to be.
Right.
And maybe there's something or someone even better than that. Or a different job that I need to be more prepared for than just this one that I was going to settle for. Yeah. And if you can listen to this and know that and feel that, I will be fulfilled.
Amazing.
And I'm honestly already fulfilled just off hearing what you've told me.
Dude,
so thank you.
Dude, you're like the utmost very welcome. So look in the camera. Tell everybody where they can find you. Instagram,
Michael Brovac, all lowercase. You can find me at camo.ca, cam-o.ca, and that's really it. Those are my biggest platforms that I use.
Right on.
And I would love to be in touch. Anyone can message. Doesn't matter. I love to connect with people.
Amazing. My brother, I love what you've been doing.
Thank you.
I'm so grateful you've been able to share your story with me. And
to be here, man.
I'm really stoked I met you today. I'm really excited.
I know, it's crazy how it worked
today.
out.
Like, yeah, it's great.
Crazy, man.
It's great. And it's ridiculous. But I'm really grateful for it, and just keep doing your thing, man.
Well, man.
I love it.
You
really
too.
appreciate it.
I love you too.
I'm grateful.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
You're the man.